KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tediosian, 90.7 KFSR.
Welcome to another edition of the Central Valley Ledger. This is part two of a two-part series with the one and only Dr. Jackie Ryle. Now, Jackie has been a city clerk for about 28 years.
I was.
She's worked in the city clerk's office for over 30 years.
Right.
And I'll let her tell you a little bit about all the stuff she's doing now, but welcome to the program, Jackie.
Thank you, Sevag. It's so nice to come back. It's so nice to sit and talk with you. We've talked in the past, as you said, and so this full circle is really nice, and in opposite chairs now.
So for audience members that missed last week's edition, I reminded the audience that you interviewed me back in 2004 and 2005 in a very similar program. That's what the great thing is about this.
True.
City in Action.
Talking about community things that we have a chance to talk about. I know that, you know, Sevag, I met you as a very young man, and you too have worked in City Hall.
There was no beard back when you met me.
Right. I'm not sure you could even grow one then, Sevag.
I agree with that.
You were in City Hall. I remember when you were with the financial organization over at the United Way. I mean, you're with the county now. You've had kind of a similar, and through the years, you've also done a lot of community stuff as well as community broadcast. So we've sort of, you know, I'm way ahead in years, but we've sort of followed
But
the
I'm
same
following
path.
you.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
following you. So it was great learning about all the history that your eyeballs have seen so many things in this wonderful city. It's incredible. But I want to focus on now and the future with you. Last week we talked about the past. You're a facilitator for groups. I know because several people have told me that you facilitated their groups. What do you do and why do you do that?
Well, I do love to do it. It's really a calling for me. And what it basically is you get with a group of folks of any size, and your job is to help them move their process, elicit from them in a safe environment with everybody pretty much participating at the same level, what they're interested in, what they care about, being able to communicate back and forth, and then get them to where they want to go for the session. That's always the first question I ask. What is it that you want to have at the end of the session? At the end of the time, what would you want to come out with? And so then knowing that, I can help kind of continue to steer the discussion, ask the right questions, get it recorded on flip charts, and then type up a report so that they've got something to work with after that. I really love doing that. I do it almost exclusively with, you know, we call it nonprofit, but nonprofit is the only sector that identifies itself by what it doesn't do. It doesn't make a profit. What it actually is the community benefit sector.
Right.
And nonprofit is a IRS designation. But so what I always say, I'm so grateful. There are legions of people who devote their entire lives to lives being better for other people.
Isn't that amazing that,
It is.
you know, there are some people that are focused solely on themselves, making money, and there's nothing wrong per se with that. But then you have others, the flip side, that they just want to give back to the community. And when I see those people, it touches my heart because they're so giving.
Yes.
You've met a lot of those people in your life.
Many.
What keeps people like that going? And you give back too, by the way, so you're in that category because you retired early. You could have been going and going and going, but you give back now.
You can relate to this, Sevag. It's a servant's heart. It is a servant's heart. And people, people in government have that. People in the whole community benefit sector have that. All your volunteer base, there is a servant's heart. And it, you know, people are called to help others in huge variety of ways. And so I'm really fortunate and really grateful that those are who I spend time with. So, you know, I can't ever really get depressed or down because if I start to feel that a little bit, the next thing you know, I'm in a room of people who are there for other people. And it's like, you know what? The world is full of great people.
One thing you said to me, and you hit the nail right on the head, is you take pictures of roses. I know because I follow you on Facebook.
I do.
We're friends on Facebook.
Yes.
You take pictures of roses and you post those pictures, and I thought, what a beautiful garden she has. You corrected me.
I did.
You take those pictures, why?
Because I think it's really important to stop every day and smell the roses so that you have an appreciation that there's beauty, that there's creation, that it interrupts the cycle of all the stuff that's going on. Stop and smell the roses. So my hope is, and people do, stop and smell the roses.
You know, sometimes there are people who get mad when their latte isn't hot enough.
Yeah.
They get mad when their burger is not salty enough. They get mad when maybe the line took a little too long here and there. What advice do you have people that get caught up in that moment and get upset?
Take just a moment to reflect on what you have, not what you don't have. And your examples are great ones, because if you've got the wherewithal to be in line for a burger or a latte, then by golly, you're way ahead of the game.
Ahead of many other people.
Many.
Jackie, even in this community, we have people that are going through so much that they can't do the simple things that we take for granted.
Right. So, you know, there are two ways of approaching the world. One is deficit-based, with all the bad stuff. One is asset-based, with what we've got to work with. And we see a lot of statistics about concentration of poverty here. And we do have, and the statistics are huge. At the same time, there are legions of people, the organization that you work for, and all these, there are more than 800 community benefit organizations in Fresno County alone.
800 community?
800.
Wow.
All dedicated to making life better for other people. We need to just keep doing that, and remember that when we feel a little bit deprived. We are not deprived. We're so fortunate.
So when you talk to nonprofit agencies, you mentioned it earlier, you know, there's a struggle right now with nonprofits and funding.
Yeah.
This is a challenge. I know, I worked at United Way.
Right.
I know the struggle when it comes to funding and stuff like that, the lack of resources. Sometimes I wonder if $5 or $10 can make a difference to an organization. What say you?
They really do. Every single bit counts, every single bit, and they are reliant on people that have resources sharing those resources at any level. You know, for example, when you pledge to give to an organization, and let's say $5 a month, well, that all goes to the work that they do. It all goes to the work. I've been with enough of those organizations to know that for absolutely the majority part of it, they're good stewards. They're good hearts. They work very hard at doing the right thing with the resources that they're able to garner, and any amount counts.
Jackie, I want to talk about art with you.
Yeah.
You're a fan of art.
Yeah.
I've seen you at Art Hops, actually.
Yeah.
Why is art so important? Because, you know, we're sitting in a building that once was the Met Museum, and a lot of people were sad to see the Met Museum go. Why is art so important?
You know, we know viscerally, but research also bears out that art in anybody's life, but particularly in a young person's life, very young children and growing on up, has a huge impact on us. It actually can change hardwiring. It's something that's beyond ourselves. It's beauty. It's just it's a factor that, like I say, there's research that reflects that art is so valuable and makes such an impact on our development, on our appreciation beyond ourselves, and on our own creativity, which we all have of some kind. People are funny, they'll say, I'm not an artist, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. And I say, why would you even want to draw a straight line with a ruler? I mean, that's not even interesting. You do whatever you do. The advent of these painting groups, these, you know, paint and sip or whatever those are, they're really, paint at night is great because it lets people know that they do have creativity in them, and it makes such good sense to bring it out. And we have now a really thriving arts community here, thriving.
And so when you have an opportunity to go to Art Hop, which I see you do, or the various museums that we still do, what is it you're looking for? Is there a special way to take on art or take in art? Because I see people staring for hours at a piece of artwork, and I'm wondering what they're thinking. I look at art, but I don't look for hours. So when you look at art with your eye, what is it that you're looking for?
You know, for me, it's very visceral. It's a pleasure. And even art pieces that I wouldn't want to live with, what's way too wild or whatever the case may be, I could look at and enjoy of the moment, and then I would find maybe something else to live with. But I think it gives pleasure. I think it gives, it's interesting. Sometimes we don't know, in fact, we usually don't know what the artists were thinking, but the artists really would like for us to find our own level of interest and enjoyment and meaning in their art pieces. So it's a wonderful way to connect with yourself and with other people. Art Hop is a combination of things. You do get to see some wonderful creation by local artists, and you get a chance to visit with them a little bit too. They have a great Art Hop right here in CMAC on the first Thursday night of the month from 5 to 8, and I've been here. And typically there are some snacks, and typically there may be live music or perhaps some piped-in music. But and then there are, like I said, the artists present to chat with and other people coming and going. So it has really revitalized downtown, thanks to the Fresno Arts Council for bringing that about and supporting it through the years.
And they're doing a lot of great work at the Arts Council, so good for them.
They are.
Jackie, talk about your book. You have a book out, and it's on your website. Tell us about your book.
Well, it's called All I Want Is a Little Piece, and it's based in what's called interest-based negotiations or interest-based communication. And it's very simple. It simply says, what is your interest? Being interested in what people are interested in, what they care about. A position is, I want that to be green. That's a position. The interest is, so what about green is important to you? Well, it's calming. Okay, so I'm understanding your interest is in a calming environment.
So so you basically you can take a statement, reword it to find out what the interest of a person is.
Yes, by asking and by am I hearing? And then they realize that you really were listening for what they cared about, not just what they were saying. I say it this way: we follow the words, and in all of our classes with active listening, we're taught nod and get eye contact, but also to repeat the words. So if I say, you know what, it's just too darn cold in here, I'm miserable, I can't work. If somebody says, yeah, it's really cold in here, well, it shows they heard my words, but that's gonna whip me up more. Where the reframe is, so am I hearing you'd be more comfortable if it was warmer? Yeah, and you did hear what I said, even though I didn't use those words.
That's such an interesting way. I never even thought about that, but that's such an interesting way to rephrase someone's sentence.
It's a reframe. It reframes. Reframing takes the negative and reframes it to the positive, leaves out toxic language, gets us to a place where we can talk calmly about things we both care about, because there's always stuff we both care about, always. We have common interests.
This is the facilitator in you coming out.
Yeah.
I see it and I hear it. Did your work as city clerk help you in your current role as a facilitator?
Absolutely. It taught me everything I know, Sabag, everything. So first of all, I was there as an observer to capture the essence of the conversation of elected officials and other people. Had a responsibility to be neutral and objective, so I'm listening for the essence, not in my own mind, well, that was not right, oh, that was dumb. None of that, ever. So that's the kind of skill that you use when you're a facilitator. I'm very, very grateful that those 32 years at city council meetings, and 2 in Modesto, 34 years, really equipped me to be a facilitator who can listen, capture the essence, and give it back to them in ways that they can use. Absolutely did.
So who are your clients and what do they come to you for? Like board of directors, nonprofits, what is it that they're coming to you for?
So I will tell you this. The Women's Conference does a wonderful thing. They raise a lot of money. The annual Women's Conference, wonderful conference.
They have great speakers too, by the way.
They have great speakers. They raise a lot of money. They turn that around and they have scholarships, and then they award money to our community benefit organizations here. I went to their annual event. They awarded money of various amounts to 81 organizations.
That's not bad.
I looked at that and I kept saying, I know this, I've worked with them. I had worked with 46 of those in my lifetime.
Over 50%, good for you.
Exactly. Organizations like the Marjorie Mason Center, like the Community Food Bank, like the United Way. I mean, I really could go on and on. Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I've worked in one way or another with all of those that might be a board retreat or a board and staff retreat where they have a little more clarity on their roles and responsibilities, staff development and training, that whole range of hopefully people becoming even more equipped and enhancing their skills to make their best contribution to the community through that agency or organization to give the best service to the clients, which then raises all of the community up.
And how long does it typically take? I know that this is a difficult question to answer because it's based on the need of the board or organization, but typically are these half-day, full-day, couple of hour sessions?
So you've sort of basically answered it, and that is this, it depends on what you need, how many people are involved, whether there are some real issues. I mean, if it's you know what we want to do is we want to take a look at our mission, make sure it's still valid. We want to do a little visioning, and we want to take a look at our goals from last year and, you know, get a sense of where they are and see where we want to go with that in the future. You can cover that so quickly in 2 to 3 hours. That if you've got some issues and you're really, like you're thinking, maybe we'll change our name, and we really do need to look at our goals. We haven't done any strategic planning in 5 years. Then you really want to allot 3 to 5 hours, maybe 6, and especially if it's a large group of folks, so that there's an opportunity for folks to first settle in. I like to ask folks at the outset, you know, introduce yourself, how long you've been involved in this, and what do you most appreciate about it, so that you're in this mindset of, you know, I like being here and I like what I'm doing, and then you take from there and go to the issues that they're interested in.
Talk a little bit about what prepared you to do that. I mean, I know that you've got your doctorate, you've worked at the city, so what is it that really makes you prepared to handle these situations?
I really do think that that the working for the city was a huge, just huge, and see, here's this: when you work for a group of elected officials who don't necessarily get along, and your job is to get along with everybody. So in the early days, there wasn't much of that, but as the years went by, there were folks that got into real conflict, and when they disagreed disagreeably sometimes. So my job was to stay on an even keel and have the same kind of relationship with all those folks and everybody else that came in. So you really learn to do that and mean it. You mean it. I like everybody the same. I do. I appreciate how everybody is giving of their time and giving of their talent. And so I could relate to that. I used to say, and kind of in jest, and Sal Quintero will quote this, all councils are good, the current one is best. We would all kind of laugh, but the truth of the matter is, I meant that because that was the one that was there then, and so it's the best for now. And so when you internalize that, people know that when you're working with them. So that's how I learned not to get into that, the sides thing, and he's right and she's wrong and all the rest of that. There's always common ground. Let me help you find it.
And there are people who believe certain ways because of certain things. I mean, you know, there's no way that you can say, oh, this is right or wrong, because some people, you know, there's just a different opinion.
And there are differing values, and so what I hopefully help people do is find the way to find what common ground there is, disagree, able to disagree agreeably, agree to disagree agreeably, and then find ways to work or exist together without conflict getting in the way. Yes, we can have different values. Yes, we can have different practices, but we have an acceptance and an appreciation for the other that is not going to have us constantly at odds and not liking each other.
How interesting of a career you've had. You've met a lot of people through your time. I bet you've met people that are so interesting. Talk about not by names, but just generally speaking, what interesting caliber of people you've met in your lifetime.
Well, I do want to give you one name.
Sure.
Back when I had the show and I did interviews, Dr. Bakke came here from Chicago, and he was the scientist that discovered that dinosaurs were warm-blooded animals.
Wow,
I got to interview him on the show. That was fascinating. So I got to do that kind of stuff. I got to see. So meeting people sort of intermittently was one thing, but also the ability, for example, over the years, to know elected officials and to see sort of the real them and see how they operated in back rooms, differentiated from in the front of the room.
Because you used to be in there with them.
I did, and they showed themselves. They showed who they really were. Some were very gracious, and there was some statesmanship, and at times There really was not. So sort of getting to know the electeds and the political folks, that was really, really interesting. And then the folks that are just involved in the community. All the folks that were really involved in the community came through City Hall. Now folks that are involved in the community through helping and serving services. And then I try to stay involved. I serve on the, it's called the District 1 Implementation Review Committee at City Hall. I serve on that, and that's community members in our district, that District 3, that review everything that's going to be going before the Planning Commission, just to give and then to the City Council, just to give our thoughts on representing our neighborhood. So, and recently, this last year, we had a senior citizens task force. Councilmember Olivier put together a senior citizens task force.
I remember that.
And we came forward with a recommendation that there needs to be a senior center here. So still involved and loving to go down to City Hall once in a while, do a little work, and then leave.
So interesting.
It is.
Tell us a little bit more about, you have a movie online that you have on your website.
I do.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
I do. So that was a little art film. It's an 18-minute film that was put together by Bob Avery. Bob Avery used to be a volunteer photographer for Continental Cable when we were doing those shows.
Continental Cable, you're right. That was back in the day.
That was back in the day. He was and then it became Comcast over on Helm. He was a volunteer photographer. That's how I met him. And Joanne Kimura worked for the city of Fresno, and she was a playwright and a screenwriter. And they developed this sweet little 18-minute film called A Cat in the River. Think of it, I get a little teary-eyed. It's a sweet little film. And I got a chance to be in that. It was a wonderful experience, and he put my name in. They nominated me. I received a couple of awards, actual awards. Best Actress in an Emerging Film, and they got Best Emerging Film, and this was by the Videographers Association. Can you imagine that? I have 2 trophies. I had to go back to New York and pick up and get an award for that movie.
And people can watch that film on your website?
On my website. It's got a page for that. I've actually taken up art again after 50 years, and I've got a few of my pieces on my website, which I hadn't thought of before, and somebody asked me if I had them on there, and I said no. So it's a static little website. It's not fancy. There's none of that fading in and out or anything. You hit the tab and go to the next page, but it gives a sense of what I do, if someone's interested in the kind of work, and a way to get a hold of the book.
And your book is available on there as well, but also your contact information is on there.
It is, yes, by email.
Who should contact you, or what would be the reason that our audience members may contact you?
Well, the typical reasons that I get a contact, sometimes is to get a hold of the book, to ask me if I'm still doing the kind of work I'm doing. Most of my work, I very seldom go out and make a proposal, is word of mouth. Now that I've done this in this valley for so long, and I do a few things beyond the valley, but my heart is here, and my investment is here.
And
that's all.
The previous edition of the program, part 1, we talked about how you're actually from Modesto, so you didn't travel far. And we're glad that you came to Fresno. We're glad that we got you for so many years. So, future, you jog.
I do. I want to keep jogging.
Yeah. How important is that?
I can't even tell you how important it is. Now, so here's what I've come to. In the day, I didn't start jogging till I was 43. But in the day, I did 8 full marathons, and I did a 50-miler, completed a 50-mile. Now I'm just jogging and walking and all of that. Now I'm at a point where when I jog, I push a stroller that's got 15 pounds of rocks in the seat and a couple teddy bears, because about 3 years ago I started falling down.
Oh.
I said, if I keep falling down, I'm gonna break a bone. So I now push a stroller, and I still can get through half marathons, 13 miles.
And what's interesting is you started jogging at 43, you said.
Yeah.
So, and you're great at jogging, so it proves that someone can start later on.
Yes.
You know, I'm not 43 yet. I don't jog, but I want to get there. So
yes,
here's
and you walk. Walking is actually better than jogging. Walking is really good, and then a little power walking, and then if you decide to jog, a few steps, and then you're winded and stop, and then add a few steps, and that's how you kind of work into it. But really, walking is better for us than jogging. I'm just sort of addicted to it.
We're running out of time this week on the program.
Darn.
So are we? It goes by so fast.
I know.
That's 2 editions
Yes.
we've done together. Are you still going to be around the art scene? Are we still going to see Jackie Ryle at like Art Hop and all that places?
Yes, and I'm actually working on a show. I did Art Hop. I had a show at Bitwise last May, and I've had a couple of other venues, and I'm working on another one, which I will. It's too soon to announce, but I will be doing another Art Hop within the next 2 or 3 months.
We're excited about that. What keeps you going? You just, every time I see you, you're running around. You got that beautiful smile on your face. You're just full of energy, and you're in that beautiful Prius as well.
I still am. You know what? I love life and I love people, and I'm so grateful that my health has held out. If you've got good health, then you've got really everything, and so you're well enough to enjoy relationships with people and experiences.
Conversations
like this, exactly. It's hard when you're in pain or you're ill. I know that and feel for folks, and am very grateful that I'm able to do it.
We are almost out of time on the program. Give us your website and contact information.
Okay, www.jackieryle.com, and that will take you to my email, and email me, and I'll be glad to email back.
Jackie, thank you so much for doing part 2 of a 2-part series with us. We learned a lot about you these 2 episodes.
Thank you, Savag. It was very fun.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. We hope that you enjoyed the program this week. This was part 2 of a 2-part series with the one and only Dr. Jackie Ryle. Thank you to our audience members watching this broadcast on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99, also listening to this program on KFSR 90.7 FM. Also, thank you to our volunteer crew that make this production and every production possible. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you also to all of you who tune in to us and listen to our program and watch our program. We hope you enjoyed the program this week. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.